There's another story I want to tell you about bread I read about. They say that in World War II, the bombing of various cities left many children orphaned. The children did not have anything to eat. The lucky ones were discovered and brought into refugee camps where they were cared for and they were given food. In many of these refugee camps, they discovered that the children had trouble going to sleep at night. They just were afraid, they were hungry, they had been traumatized, and they just didn't want to go to sleep. And so someone hit upon the idea of giving the children a loaf of bread or a piece of bread in their hand that they could sleep with at night. And the children were then able to sleep. They could say to themselves, I ate today, and I will eat again tomorrow. Bread is hope, and hope for tomorrow. It gives us the strength to go forward for another day. It's that kind of symbol for us. The pretzel is an interesting shape of bread. I've read about its founding, and it's many legends about how it started. Some say that it started back in about the 600s in a monastery where there was a monk making bread, and it was the Lenten time, and he was thinking about prayer and how at that time they often prayed with their arms crossed like this. And so he twisted that bread around into the shape of prayer. And he said, we'll use this as a reminder of our prayers in Lent. And it became a favorite symbol. It often now symbolizes good luck and prosperity. It's used often in Lent, and they say it's a good size to share with other people. The pretzel has its own symbolism. Another thing that we can do with bread is we can break it up and leave crumbs. There's a trail of breadcrumbs that we can leave. You know, there's one of the children's stories about Hansel and Gretel talks about the breadcrumbs. Remember that story? Hansel and Gretel once went out into the forest and they left a trail of breadcrumbs so they could find their way out. But of course the animals came and ate the breadcrumbs and they got lost, and then they found the gingerbread house. Well, there are other stories about crumbs. The Jewish people have a tradition in Rosh Hashanah that they take crumbs of bread and they go down to a lake or a river, and they take their crumbs and they let their crumbs of bread symbolize their sins. And then they cast those bread crumbs out on the water, and the fish come and eat the breadcrumbs and take away their sins. It's a symbol visualizing the removal of their sins. There's a verse in Ecclesiastes that says, cast your bread upon the water, and after many days it will come back to you. That's a symbol of that's pay it forward idea. Be kind to other people, and after many days, kindness will come back to you as well. Jesus leaves us breadcrumbs. He says, I am the bread of life. Follow this trail, he says. Follow this trail, and you will find your way to God. Jesus leaves us a trail that leads us right to God. Well, bread also has this rich aroma. It's been wonderful coming in, smelling bread. The aroma is so good. There's a passage in 2 Corinthians where Jesus says, you are the aroma of God. It tells us how we are to be a witness for Christ. We don't have to be a witness where we buttonhole people and make them feel bad. We are to have a winsome witness about us that is like the aroma of bread. Every one of you, your stomachs are growling. You can't wait to go get bread now because of the smell of bread. I don't have to say, you need to eat bread, do I? All I have to do is let you smell. Jesus says our lives, our witness can be like the aroma of God that leads people to come to Christ. One last thing we'd say about these loaves of bread, almost all of them, you couldn't eat it by yourself, could you? You might eat part of it, but you need to share your bread, share it with other people, and it tells us that we need to share the bounty that God has given to us. And I've got good news for you today. We're going to share bread with you. On your way out today, we're going to have baskets of bread right at the back of the CMC here where you can sample some different kinds of bread on your way out. and you won't have to just smell it. You can actually taste the good bread that we have. Well, Jesus said, I am the bread of life. This week, Holly came back from the General Assembly in Indianapolis, and she said, at the seminary luncheon, Lexington Theological Seminary luncheon, Dr. Sharon Warner shared a prayer about bread, and she said, it was just so beautiful. And we began to look around, and we found this prayer. It's a Celtic prayer, and this will be our call to communion today. Listen carefully to these words. Be gentle when you touch bread. Let it not lie uncared for, unwanted. So often bread is taken for granted. But there is so much beauty in bread. Beauty of the sun and the soil. Beauty of patient toil. Winds and rains have caressed it. Christ often blessed it. Be gentle when you touch bread.